Our next session is Maximizing Profit, Estimating Methodology, Job Budgeting, and Labor Calculation. Ben Justesen is the president of Just Right Cleaning and Construction. He holds certification in all segments of the industry, including carpet cleaning, duct cleaning, water damage, advanced drying, fire and smoke damage, structural estimating, mold remediation, lead renovation, thermal imaging, hardwood and concrete drying, and construction remodeling. He is an AHERA inspector and is in the process of earning higher designations with the RIA. He has taught many classes to real estate agents, insurance agents, home inspectors, maintenance technicians, and other restoration companies nationwide, and is an Xactimate affiliate trainer. Ben has been named in Remodeler Magazine Top 500 in the nation, Remodeler's Big 50, Magazine's 5,000 Fastest Growing Companies, and won the 2018 RIA Golden Quill Award for Best Article. He credits his father, Blaine, and the dedicated employees for making the best restoration company in Eastern Washington. We also have Tom McGuire. Tom has 34 years experience in disaster recovery, specializing in large commercial and structural losses, in restoration, vital documentation recovery projects, and related to hurricanes, fires, floods, and tornadoes. Mr. McGuire is considered an expert in disaster recovery of structural losses, vital documents, and is a published author of 10 related articles. His notable career projects include New York World Trade Center and Vista Hotel, Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans Criminal Courts and New Orleans Police Department, evidence recovery, inventory, restoration of active files, and destruction of designated evidence between 2005 and 6. The founder of Large Loss Mastery, which is a hands-on large loss estimating, project management, and business development training program. Other notable projects include all major hurricanes and weather events, essentially since 1990, which include Andrew, Floyd, Katrina, the Iowa floods, Hurricane Ike, Nashville, Chicago, and Rhode Island floods, the Nashville floods, Superstorm Sandy, Hurricane Matthew, Irma, and Florence. Welcome, gentlemen.
Appreciate it. All right, so can you guys see that in the back? I know Xactimate shows up kind of small when it's on a screen. So today, Tom and I were put together to do this session, and I was pretty excited because I've been wanting to go to Tom's class for a long time. We've been able to talk and go over some things, and what we found is that there's some similarities in what we do. In fact, both sides of doing estimating, whether you're using unit cost pricing through Xactimate or something like that, or T&M pricing and the calculator that Tom has, it's about production rates. And so we're gonna go into that today. So we actually did some estimates for this building. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now, Tom's way of doing things, it blew mine away as far as speed. I mean, it's just way, way faster, and he's gonna demonstrate that later on. But what I wanna show you is if you're using Xactimate or unit cost pricing, there's a couple of things that you need to be aware of when it comes to production rate. In Xactimate, it's called yield, okay? And so I'm gonna show you maybe a couple of things that you haven't seen before. I'm also gonna show you the labor rate calculator that I have, which has to do with the pricing side. So I'm gonna go pretty quick. I'm only gonna take about 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna let Tom do the rest of the talking, because what he's got is really neat. All right, so I just made, or used one of the macros that I have to do a mitigation, like a class 1 water damage in about, I believe it was 400 rooms, right, Tom? So 400 rooms of this hotel, and then it was also some smoke cleaning in those same 400 rooms. And then using the equipment and all that to do the dry out get the cleaning done of the structure and the contents. So I don't know if we're exactly identical. We actually haven't compared a lot of notes on the estimates. I did find out he was about 1.7 and we're at 1.5, almost 1.6, so pretty close. But it also depends on that production rate, and is it an easier job, harder job, and so we're going to go into that now. So I've got quite a few line items in here. I don't even remember what my count is on the line items, but it's in the thousands. Now if I come here, or let's go into one of the line items first. I'm going to show you where the yield is at. So if I click on a line item, and then I click on this price right here, you're going to see this little info button next to the price. We're going to go ahead and click on that. In here, this gives you all the information of what makes up that line item. And it doesn't matter what line item you're putting in there, it's going to give you the information. And it's going to give you the production rate of that labor, and then it's going to tell you basically the waste percentage of the material that it's using and each material component that's in the line item. So right here, if I click on the labor and I go edit, down here at the bottom, it's going to pull up my assembly info. Now, right here, it's saying that, and I use the price list for Kissimmee, Florida, and we're at $38 an hour for somebody that does cleaning. By the way, anybody from this area? Are you happy with that? Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay, so then it's also giving you your production rate or your yield, okay? This is saying for cleaning a desk, it says perfect conditions, like you just magically appear on the job site, don't have to deal with a customer, you didn't have to do any planning or drive time or anything like that. You can do 2.3 desks an hour for one person. Now, I don't know if you feel like that's good enough or not, but that's what Xactimate has. And then right here it has supporting events, right? It says based on an 8-hour day, 5-minute planning, 60-minute drive time, which by the way, that changed in March. Every price list had 30-minute drive time. In March, Xactimate changed it. I can't tell you exactly why or if it's that great. There's some other issues with it that I have, not necessarily the supporting event time. But I did find out from Xactware that the 60 minutes is a round trip. It's not a one-way. So before they were giving you 15 minutes to the job site with a 30-minute round trip. Now they're giving you 30 minutes one way with that 60-minute. Okay? And then you have material equipment pickup, 20-minute breaks, 15-minute setup and takedown, and overall loss of productivity, right? That reduces this from 2.3 desks an hour to 1.8 desks an hour. Every single line item has a yield like this. If you want to get more time out of it, all you have to do is come in here. You need to, if you increase this, it will give you a lower amount of hours, meaning a lower price. If you decrease this, it says that you're not as efficient, that it will give you more hours to do that task, thus increasing the price. So if I lower this to just 1 desk an hour, notice this is $21.99. If I lower it to 1 desk an hour, and with that 20% wasted time in the day, it makes that almost 0.8 desks per hour. That gives me $49 per desk rather than the $21 per desk. Okay? This is something you should be changing if you have longer drive times or you just feel that there's extenuating circumstances on the job, like large losses where you have to, maybe it's a condo complex or this hotel, and you have to walk 200 feet just to get to the first hotel room, rather than a residential job where it might be 40 feet from the truck to the door. Okay? I'm going to cancel on that. There's one other way to do this. You go to the supporting events, and this actually shows you each labor component of this job and the supporting event percentage. Basically, that's your waste on time, waste on the labor. Now, if I wanted to change this, let's say instead of 60-minute drive time round trip, I want to change that to 120. Now, this is like a description of a line item. I can change it, but it doesn't really change any of the pricing. But if I change that and I come over here, now I add up the 5 minutes, the 120 minutes, 20-minute breaks, 15 minutes. Anybody got a calculator to add that up for me? Rob's on it. That or he's texting somebody. Okay, so we got 5 minutes, 120 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And let's go ahead and divide that by 480, which is the amount of minutes in an 8-hour day. So that gives us 32%. So I'm going to change this to 0.32. Now notice the difference in the price. Now this is a bigger estimate, so hopefully Xactimate doesn't crash on me. That's one of the limitations to Xactimate. So we're at 1.57. I'm going to change this to 0.32. Wait for it. I don't know if that's, we'll see if this happens. Yeah, I think it's going to crash on me. There we go. I'm going to look at the summary. So it was 1.57. Let's see if it changes. This sometimes in even exact X1 will lag behind in the grand total. So sometimes you have to click on this summary so you can see the actual total. Again, I don't think you'll have this problem with Tom's calculator.
Now, be nice.
All right, so now we're up to 1.7. That one change of changing your drive time instead of half an hour to the job, we're saying 1 hour to the job. Okay? That significantly changed this estimate, didn't it? So that's just another way to change the labor rate. Now, real quick, now that I've shown you how to change your yield or your production rate in Xactimate, let's see here. Yeah, I probably should have shown this in a smaller estimate in Xactimate.
No worries. You're good.
All right, so let's go to my website real quick. We'll see how fast the internet is here. So for me, there's a couple of things that we need to focus on when we're doing an estimate, and the production rate is one of the biggest things. Now, most everybody knows me by the pricing guy, and so I'm going to show you on my website the labor rate calculator. Your labor rate calculator, if you use something like this and make your labor rates based on your financials, your pricing will be above reproach. And then you can use all those exact-ware quotes and that pricing statement from the RIA AGA committee. We do it every day in my business. I use my price list, and we get it every day. And with that documentation and doing it the correct way, not just charging whatever the heck you want, you'll get the higher prices. So let's say we have a pay scale for like a finished carpenter and they're at 30 bucks an hour, which is typically higher than most of the rates that Xactimate has. For a finished carpenter, they're usually in the 20s, and I think usually the finished carpenter gets a little bit higher, but this is just for an example. This is not based on anybody's numbers, just doing an example. So we're going to go with 30. The burden, we'll just say it's around 13. And that's your payroll taxes and your workers' comp and all that kind of stuff, and the fringe benefits. Over here, we're going to say a company has like 28% overhead, and maybe they want a 15% net. And 15%, I think, is pretty dang good for this industry. So that leaves us with a 43% budgeted gross profit. Now right here, I'm going to change this to 50-50. On each one of the trades, you need to figure out how much of that trade is labor and how much of that trade is material. Oops. Because the 16.67 over here, that's the only margin that Xactware is giving you on the material. If that's the case, and half of your job or half of that trade is material, then it makes sense that the other side, the labor, needs to be a much more profitable rate to get to that 43%. If half of it's 16.67, the other half needs to be 69.33 to give you that 43%. Hopefully that makes sense. Now because of that, I should be at about $90.83 if this is correct, and this is my actual margin, and this is what I actually pay my guy. Numbers don't lie. I need $90 or $91 an hour to make that 43% margin. Now, I know this is kind of not really a classroom setting, but what do you guys think of that? You like it? Okay. This is how you change your pricing. You know, I don't have enough time to go into the price list and how to make that. That's something I teach. But this is the labor rate calculator. It's free for RIA members. Hope you enjoyed this part of the session. I'm going to turn the time over to Tom, and he's going to show you some really neat stuff.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. All right, so hopefully our technology switch here is going to be okay. First things first. Can everybody hear me? All right. All right, all right, all right. Let me make sure everything's working. It's a bitch getting old, ain't it? Dang it. All right. We're going to come back to this.
Now, while he... Hello? There we go. While he's setting up here, Tom and I met just a few months ago, and we were trying to figure out what do we do? What do we present? So he showed me what he does, and he took me through the software that he has called The Edge. And just like a little bit what you can do with Xactimate and changing that production rate, he's made it just absolutely simple. When you get into Xactimate, you don't always know where to go. It's a little more involved in trying to find something. He has broken it down, so it's just very simple, very quick. Now, for me to do my estimate, it probably took me, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. But again, I was not doing the going around sketching the rooms in person. I just kind of guessed because of some information actually he had found online that the rooms were, what, just over 400 square feet for the ones that we were doing?
Yeah, the standard rooms were 14.
Yeah. So I made enough rooms, those 400 rooms, and I just made rectangles. Now, it probably would have taken me even longer if I was to do this like we would normally do. But it took me a lot longer to do. First time he showed me this process while he's explaining it, I don't even think it took 20 minutes, and it was like a $750,000 NTE estimate. It just blew me away. In fact, I think it was a week after I had a large loss fourplex fire, and I used it on that, and I was able to kick it out really quick. And then I did an Xactimate estimate that took me however many hours later. And it was so close. I was very surprised, and it was nice to be able to give a roundabout number to the customer that quickly. And that's what's giving you the edge, is you're able to give that number to the customer that much quicker. But now he's going to show it to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure being here. First, just want to say thank you, everybody, for hanging around. I know that this is the last day, and we actually have Bloody Marys. I had little bottles, and I got from Southwest Airlines these little bottles, and they gave me 2 cases of Bloody Mary mix. But when I checked with the hotel today, they're actually down in my booth. So if you want to come by my booth, it's 413. I will give you your Bloody Mary mix. You can't tell anybody, though, because they put the kibosh on me this morning.
Don't tell anybody.
and so they would do it if I bought their Bloody Marys and had them served, and that started to turn into something very, very expensive. And so we didn't go down that road, but isn't it good that we're back live? Isn't this awesome? This is awesome. And what about everybody here at the RIA? Congratulations to our winners last night, some fantastic companies and people. Everything is moving forward in a very positive direction. Very exciting time to be involved in our industry. I started in this industry in 1986 when Gary Moore was up here yesterday. I was basically starting at the same time. I was a little bit younger than Gary. I was in my low 20s, and a lot of changes. The one thing that has not changed, though, is production rate, what one person can do in an 8-hour period. And production rate is prominent throughout everything in this. If you're in any kind of industry, if you're in a manufacturing, if you're restaurant, everything is based on what one person can do. It's been around for centuries, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit. All right. I don't have my clicker, so I'm out of place. All right. So number one, I always want to ask, I'm a freak when I go, growing up in this business, there isn't a building that I go into that I'm not asking myself, what if, how much, and how long? What if this happened? How much would it cost, and how long would it take? Those always go off in my head. Next, I have square footage prices that are stuck in my head, because all of this information from all of those years since 1986, we have kept all that information, and we've developed some really, really cool tools that are extremely effective, extremely fast, and they're based on about 6,800 files. So it's real. So when you see these things that we're going to talk about, these are real. And there are several faces I see out here, including Rob down here, that are currently using what we're going to talk about. So always ask yourself, what if, how much, and how long? So how many people have thought about that in this building? Everybody think about, it's really easy in this day and age to find out your square footage of almost every, you don't even have to take a measurement. Like of a facility like this, you can Google it and find out almost to the T the square footage. Now you will have to calculate some of the corridors and things like that, but everything that we're gonna get into we're gonna go to work on a little case study, and it's just information I pulled off of the internet. I didn't do any measurements here whatsoever. I spent about 30, 40 minutes on the internet. So what is the total square footage of the facility, of this facility? What are the total number of guest rooms? How much convention space is there? How much common space is there? And then we're always going to ask ourselves, what if, how much, and how long? I do it all the time. I'm in an airport. I'm thinking about, okay, what if this happened? Or, this or that. And I did it when we were in 86. We were in New York City doing MTV. I've been very blessed with my career and have worked with some amazing people, and they have taught me so much, and that's what the foundation of large loss mastery is. I've taken all that information and I've rolled it into courses that we roll now out to everybody else. All the best practices. So we were in New York City doing MTV. MTV had a fire, and it was really cool. It was the 80s. It was when MTV was cool. And there were a lot of artists there, and it was just a super cool job. So while we were there, we went down to Battery Park, and we were looking up at the trade centers, and I was with a buddy of mine, and I said, man, what if? And then we went up on top and looked down off the observation and said, man, what if? And sure enough, 1993 rolled around after the first bomb is when the company that I worked for at the time, we were the company that did the restoration of all but 7 floors of the World Trade Centers in 1993. So always ask, what if, how much, how long? Doesn't matter what size company you are. You might say, we don't do large loss, but guess what? Well, how big a company do you think that was? We were about an $8 to $10 million company at that time when we were all on call. So there were about 10 employees that were actually on salary. 10 to 20 people were actually on salary with that company. So never say that you don't do large loss. You just haven't gotten there yet. The only difference between a large loss, being able to do it, and not being able to do it is resources. Having the equipment, the people, and the knowledge. So what we're trying to do is give you a little bit more knowledge. And I see my clock's on down here. For those of you who've been through my class, you know that I'm very passionate about this, and we can talk for hours, if not days, right, Rob? All right. Okay, so let's go to work. That means I got to put my glasses on because I can't see shit anymore. But, all right. All right, so just off of public information, we know that an estimated total square footage of this entire facility is about 1.5 million square feet. We have 1,460 guest rooms, standard guest rooms at 410 square feet. We have deluxe suites at 830 square feet each. We have executive suites at 625 square foot each. Unfortunately, I'm not in any of those rooms except for I'm in the small rooms there. But so the total guest rooms and surrounding common area is about 843,000 square feet. And so the convention space, another 482,000. And then if you did everybody knows how much square feet is in an acre? 443,560 square feet in an acre. So under that 4.6 square foot atrium, we know that there is 200,000 square feet. So just off the internet, walking into the facility, if there's a loss here, we're already in the driver's seat, especially against our competitors who may be walking it for the first time and haven't done their homework. We can walk on that job if we're using the tools that we're going to show you here in a second with our scope of work and our initial price before we even see the job. So that's what we're going to show you because we want you to have the tools to compete and win. Okay, so we know that. So what if, how much, how long? With this exercise, Ben and I put together, we just decided to pull some work for both Xactimate and time and materials. Because my deal is time and materials with a budget number. I never say not to exceed. To me, not to exceed is like a number, a word that does not exist. So it's always budget number. We're going to give our clients our numbers, our contracts, our pricing, and that's what we're going that's what we're going to bring with us. So 204,000 square feet is what we're going to deal with. Was 400 hotel rooms. We didn't include the convention space. If we have time, I may roll back and include the whole building and show you how quickly we can put together our base number and our budget. All right, everybody ready?
Now you're just showing off.
Well, yeah, I can't help it.
Yeah.
All right, and 14 calendar days to complete the job, because what's the number one thing with hotels? Heads and beds. And if you're doing a hotel casino, what do they want to know? Butts and seats and heads and beds. That is it. When can they get people at the casino, and when can they get people in the beds? All right. So when we talk about estimating, I got to make sure all right. Everything is working. All right. There are three variables, and I don't have my little clicker. I'm kind of out of character here, but all right. So we need our square footage. These are our three main estimating calculators. So we need our square footage, calendar days to complete the job. Now we already know that. We have 204,000. We have 14 calendar days. So now we need to know our production rate. Excuse me. That is the only factor that's missing. So what is production rate? Well, to be perfectly honest, production rate has been around forever. And when I say ever, we're talking centuries. The pyramids were built on production rate. How many people did it take to move a 1-ton rock? How many people did it take to move a 5-ton rock? How many people did it take to move a 20-ton rock? All those things were factored. Every manufacturing business on the planet is, whether it's automated, whether it employs people or employs robots, you need to know how much can that robot do and how much can this person do. That is how factories are built. That is how businesses are ran on a daily basis. Our equipment. All of our equipment is sized on what? Production rate. How much CFM? How big is the building? What's the cubic footage? We're going to talk about square footage footprint in a second. But everything is based on production rate. So why are we not thinking about, when we're estimating, the same way? This is the common ground between Xactimate and time and materials. It's not as far apart as everybody would like you to think it is. They are very, very similar. When we're talking about doing time and materials with a budget number, we are talking about line items. Everything is line itemed out. We have templates that will do that for us. We just click on what applies or what doesn't apply, and it removes it automatically and creates your scope of work in minutes. And so what we want to do is focus on production rate. The degree...
Tom, I was just thinking in the last session, that's half of what he was talking about was the production rate. You can pay people more, but if you're getting more production rate out of them, that's going to make you more successful out of a business.
And what I loved about it at the end, he tied production rate into square footage. Those two things are so related in our industry, it's not even funny. We've been lulled to sleep a little bit. We've made estimating much more complicated than it ever has been. I started in 1986. That was before there was any of this. We were making the rules. We were making the guidelines because there were no guidelines. Okay. So again, it's based on, I'm going to fly through there a little bit. It's based on what one person can do in an 8-hour period. Like I said, that's as universal as lawn mowing. So if I own a landscaping company, and I have 100 acres to mow, what do I need to know? How much can one person mow in an 8-hour period? It tells me how much gas I need, tells me how many mowers I need, tells me everything. So why aren't we doing that with what we do? We're going to do that here in a second. Everybody good? The most common, and what I preach and teach, is 150 to 200 square feet per person per day. And I know a lot of guys will say, man, my guys can do more than that. But what you need to think about is everything in that square footage. So, for a hotel room, for example, think about the average hotel room is about 300 square feet. Could one person clean everything in that hotel room in one day? Probably not. Might take 2 people one day. And so that is what we're basing everything on. So now we're going to get into where it gets a little interesting here. I got to make sure you guys can see. All right. Okay. All right, cool. Now, I've already populated a little bit in here. We're going to play around with this, and I'll show you how quickly we can calculate our production rate and how quickly we can change our estimate. So we're looking at, this is a tool called a work quotient matrix. This has actually been around quite a while. Do I have any Munters? Got any Munters people left over? Everybody
Back.
All right. If you're from Munters, you will recognize a lot of this stuff, that what we've done is automated it. This isn't new. Like I said, production rate estimating has been around for a long time. Personally, I've been doing it this way for about 25, 30 years. So everything in this app that we have is based on 6,800 files and growing. And so this is how quickly we can calculate our production. Because if we don't know what our labor is, how do we know how to start our jobs? You know, how do we know how to manage our jobs? Are we just sending as many people out as possible, who's ever available? And are we doing that with our equipment? Probably not. We're going to send out what we have, what we need. We're going to size it. You might have splash day where you're going to get as much on the job as possible, make as big of, but then you're going to back off to where it makes sense. Okay. So we're going to jump in here. We're going to choose hospitality, which I've already done. We're going to check off fire and water because we're going to have a little bit of water and a little bit of fire. Now, after we've done our damage assessment, we're going to know, we've found out there's 400 rooms. Our damage assessment has told us that there's fire and water damage in 400 rooms. The highest point, the highest ceiling height in the buildings, we're going to use 20. I don't know. We got yeah. We'll do it that. I don't want to mess with it too much here. But we're going to come back. We can adjust this. I'm going to leave it where I had it set. Contaminant level, sorry, is level 3. It's not going to be real heavy. Content concentration, these are hotel rooms. There's a lot of contents. We're going to leave that at level 4. Floors, we're going to choose 22 to 20. And we're going to enter in our 204 square feet, our 14 calendar days. Next, we're going to have some containment, so we're going to select containment, because obviously what are we going to do? We're going to focus on the priority of the hotel, because heads and beds, which beds do they want first? So there's going to be some containment, because we're going to be moving people around and keeping them away from other damaged areas. We're going to leave out for this, we're going to jump back in here, but we're going to leave out the elevators for now. We're going to come back and plug in the elevators. We're not going to put any union labor here at this point. No confined space. We have HVAC, content manipulation, and containment. You can see it's already calculated our man days. Here's our work quotient, or our production rate on this job will be 170. You can see it's telling us that we're going to need 86 production laborers and 9 supervisors. Now we're talking about time and materials. And so we're going off our company time and materials rates. So whatever your company is charging is what we're going to build our estimate on. Everybody good? All right. You can see how quickly we can determine our production rate. How many people have a production rate calculator where you've been calculating your, besides the guys that have been in my class? So important, especially when it comes to large loss, especially when it comes to commercial projects. Because how many people in here have had somebody come up and look at their bill and say you had too many people? And you're saying, well, where did you come up with, well, I got too many people on this job? How many people have had that? This is where it comes from. Because LMS, JS Held, Young & Associates, not everybody in that group does this, but they have something similar, or they actually use the matrix. A lot of the guys with LMS in Dallas use exactly that, but they use the old one because they don't have the app. So this is used all the time. So when you hear that question, how did you get that labor? This is where they're factoring that in. All right. So we have our 170. So now let's go over to the edge. And I've already populated this with the information and all that kind of stuff, and we're going to get into that. All right, I have 18 minutes. And so we know our square footage, so I'm going to enter our square footage at 204,000. Calendar days, what did we say, Ben? It was 14?
Yep.
All right. Then I'm going to come down here, and my 170 is in here. So with those 3 entries, we have calculated our labor. Oop, I got an infinity in here. I must have put it. Oop, that's what. There we go. All right. So there's our labor. And just like that, here's our base number. So our first number in our head is $800,000. So just like that. Just by knowing our square footage, by knowing our production rate, and our calendar days. Calendar days, we might set the calendar days, or our client might say, hey, heads and beds, you got 14 days to get the heck out of here. All right. Next, we're going to come in. We know we have some special, we're going to be doing some drying. And so we're going to add in our 204,000 for drying, and we're probably going to do some deodorization, so we're going to add in that also. We're not going to plan on doing any reconstruction. We have reconstruction built in here also. So that takes us to our just under $9 a square foot, 1.7. This is going to be probably our high end. So now we're going to work on a lower end. So we're going to go back to the production rate calculator and calculate it. You can see just how quickly, just off of information we had on the web, on the internet, where we can be with our numbers very quickly. We just did it, and
It's crazy.
I had 18 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. 2 minutes.
All right.
It was
so
okay.
I bet you we can put together 3 numbers in those 18 minutes. All right. So we're going to go back, and we can come back and we can add in whatever labor we need. If we needed to add in another group, It's completely, you can edit as much as you want. You can change the prices. You can do everything. It's all right here at your fingertips, and it's all based on your labor rates, on your contract. All right, so I'm going to save that. Then I'm going to come back here. I'm just glad everything is working. I shouldn't have said that. Dang it. All right. All right. So now let's come back and we're going to change some of the dynamics here. So let's say we're going to do the elevators and we're going to do the faults there. So just by clicking on those, we're going to leave everything else, the square footage. Just by clicking on that, we can see that it's lowered our work quotient down to 147 by adding elevators and false airspace. And it tells us we're going to need 100 production people and 10 supervisors. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into the edge. What was that, 148? My Prevagen hasn't kicked in yet, so. All right. So you can see that it's recalculated our labor. We're going to leave everything else the way it is. And then here's our next number. If we add, whatever we add is going to lower our production rate. So we know 1718. So now we're going to come back. And we're going to take out some things. Maybe we're not going to do the HVAC. We know we are, but well, let's leave in, hold on one second. Okay, let's take out containment. Maybe the containment's not going to be necessary. Maybe the hotel is going to give us everything and we won't have to put in containment and we can do 210. We'll just round it here to 200. Again, just by changing, you can see in here we've picked, so you don't necessarily have to do the production rate calculator. We've chosen the most common. The most common, again, are 120 to 150. And then here, hold on. Let me go back up. It might have logged me off here. Let me make sure. I select, there we go. And you just simply select on whichever category works. I didn't have that selected, so it didn't change on me. And so then here is my next number. So now I always like to work with 3 numbers. I want my high number, I want my middle number, and then I want my low number. And then I want to sleep on them. Like right now, we just put all that together with information that I found in 30 minutes on the internet. In less than 30 minutes, we have our number. So here we are. What was our number with Xactimate?
1.6 approximately, and we changed the yield, and so it could be 1.7, so kind of the same thing, but yeah, it took, so it was almost the same time, so 2 hours to 2 minutes. Yeah.
And so you can see how, and I didn't know Ben's number until we were standing up here. And so this is all live. And we just did that in 12 minutes. We have 3 numbers in 12 minutes. So what am I going to do when on this job? I'm going to verify, okay, did all of the information that I gathered, is it real? You verify it. So now instead of being bogged down with our number, we're verifying and we're actually getting our scope of work. Because the most important thing on project is not the number. The most important thing that you'll put together on any project is the scope of work. The number is irrelevant if your scope is crap. If your scope is written too tight, not leaving you any room to wiggle, you got to have wiggle room built into your scope. I mean, I'm not talking about slush funds or dollars. I'm talking about legal stuff that you have written in so that when you get ready to do a change order, you're not tied into your scope. Never write a general scope. Can't tell you how many times people get in trouble because they say, we're going to do all contents. Stop. There might be a whole part of the building that you missed, and now all contents is included in your number. Because remember, we're putting together time and materials with a budget number. The budget number is tied to our scope. The minute our scope changes, we do a change order. There isn't a project on the planet that is the same price at the beginning and at the end, especially a project this size. It's not going to happen. So, all right. Dang. We got extra time. So we're making estimating fun again. That's what we're doing. And what can I change in here to? There's something I was going to do.
Well, I know, for the repair side, if somebody was going to be doing that, there's some open spaces that you have, and you can put in bids in here from subcontractors. Yep. You even have some rates for like drywall and stuff like that I thought was pretty neat, and it's just quick. You can just put it in. Yeah, we do. And what I find interesting is yours is a little more based on just the floor square footage rather than. For my estimate, I have to have every room sketched because I'm going off the walls, the ceilings, the floors, every linear foot, square foot of the entire room, where his basically includes it all in that just main square feet of the floor. And that's something that you could probably get online about a hotel or something like that very quickly, whereas for me, I have no idea. Yes, we can say 400 square feet is a hotel room, but I don't know the layout, the floor plan of that. So there could be more walls that are in that I have to get a little more technical with Xactimate to make sure that I'm doing that. And I'll tell you this, making a large estimate, who does large losses in Xactimate? Does it just absolutely bog down once you get to that $1 million mark? Like it just goes so slow, and I'm like, I don't even want to use this anymore. That was like half my time is waiting for Xactimate to keep up with what I'm trying to do in it.
And this isn't, the Edge versus the Xactimate. This is have all of these tools in your pocket, in your toolbox. When you go to war, make sure you have all the weapons that you can win the war. That's all. I love Xactimate, but it drives me crazy because why are we measuring everything that has been measured a jillion times? Think about for the guys and gals in here that how many times have we measured a 1,500 square foot home or a 3,000 square foot home? Why is that information not being saved and put into a quick estimate to where you're not doing the same thing that we've been doing for like 2 decades now? Drives me crazy. I'm a keep it simple, stupid guy. Let's get there now. It used to drive me crazy when we'd sit, on a big project and we'd sit in a room, there'd be 3 of us, and all 3 of us had a different number in our head, and we would sit there and drive each other crazy. It'd be midnight and we'd be ordering pizza because we couldn't decide on the number, and we kept going back and forth. Then it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning and we'd get the number done at 6 o'clock in the morning, and now we're too damn tired to do the scope. And to me, that's ass backwards. Take the number, make the number the least important thing that you're doing. Utilize the tools that are available. All of this is built on 6,000 files and growing, 30 years of experience, because we wanted to create a tool that gets people there quicker and utilizes all the experience that we have. And so I still have 6 minutes. So let's go back, and now we can do our scope of work. So we've.
Oh, I think you should show them what this looks like when you print it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, plenty of time. All right, so now our scope of work. Now what this is a template that is built in, and again, I don't have my mouse, and my hands are sticky, so it's like, dang it. All right. So what we're going to do here is this is a legal document. All of everything in here is legal. It's used all the time, and it's really simple. What you do is just click on what doesn't apply. So if we're not doing vital documents, we're going to pull out vital documents, and it's creating every time we click and remove, it's creating our scope of work. And for everybody that was in my class before we had this, everybody had to do it by hand.
And really, when you're looking at something like Xactimate, this would be kind of like your opening statement, closing statement type stuff. And everybody's like, man, what do I put in there? What would be a good opening statement or closing statement?
Yep.
And what I tell people is make sure you're just telling the story of the estimate. What does it include? What doesn't it include? And that's exactly what this is doing. It's like a note template or a macro for an opening statement.
We have everything built into the scope of work. It's a 7-page document, actually it might be a little bit longer. And you just simply come through and take out what doesn't apply and then add in whatever you want to add in. You can add in as much information as you want. You can take out as much information as you want. We're going to create a scope of work in just a few minutes. You just click on whatever doesn't apply, what we're going to move. You have ceilings, walls, electrical fixtures, everything is included. It's the same layout as what you would have, well, similar to Xactimate, where we're talking about line items, but we're just given one price for the line item instead of a price for each line item.
You mean it's not 1,000 pages long?
Not 1,000 pages long. You don't need to do a lot of work. You don't have to have somebody, you don't have to, yeah. Time is money. And none of us have, I mean, we've gotten faster at doing or better at doing, more efficient at doing our jobs, but the one thing none of us have is more time. You know, we have all these neat tools, but, you know, I've been to contractors' offices, and they're like, you know, they've got a guy that I don't think he ever leaves the office. He's always doing Xactimate. He's like a robot in the office, and so that drives me crazy. We got elevator systems, drop ceilings, everything is in here. Contents, you can add as much contents as you want. You can take out any information in here that does not apply. Again, we're just going to click on whatever isn't included. Just come down. I'm just randomly doing stuff here, but just to make a point here. But special points, I'm going to stop in this section because as everybody knows in our classes, special points is a pet peeve of mine. This is where you're going to put in your wiggle room. Anything that you don't know about the project is going to go into the special points section of your time and materials contract or your scope of work. This is where you're going to put, you know, if we couldn't get behind door number 1, then we need to put this in here. That we couldn't get behind door number 1 because we don't know. Because I can tell you a quick story about a Pepsi plant here in Florida that we did about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and in the scope of work was written, we're going to do all contents. Well, the person that wrote the scope and contract and got it signed didn't go on the other side of that wall. Didn't realize there was 1,000 Pepsi machines over there that were now included in the scope of work, not to exceed, and just added about $10,000 to $20,000 to our not to exceed. So, special points is where you're going to put that information. We couldn't get behind door number 1, make sure it's pointed out that this scope does not include whatever's behind door number 1. All right, we come down here to the bottom. Here's our price. Now we're going to go up here to the top. If I want to include my time and materials contract and what we do, this is my time and materials contract that is in here. I just click on it. What we do for everybody is we upload your time and materials contract into it. And it's literally this quick. We're going to click on it, and then we're going to export. And this is what we're going to give to the client. There we go. This is our cover sheet. And here's our numbers. We give one of the features that we will be expanding this cover sheet to give a little bit. We've got it summarized here, which I prefer, but we do have some clients that their customers prefer for a little bit more information. My main thing is looking at everything and making sure that it's good. I know for this job, if I'm at $8 a square foot, I'm going to stay off the radar, and everybody's going to be happy. We're going to make money. This is the low end of our numbers, because remember we're at 1.6 to 1.8. So 1.8 being our highest, 1.7 being the next, and 1.6. And so always have three numbers. This gives you the ability to create three numbers very, very quickly, and nothing else will do that. Okay, so this is what we're going to give to our client. You'll see right after the cover sheet, here's our scope of work with everything that we're going to do. I'm out of time, but you can see that we have just created an estimate for this building for 400 hotel rooms with a scope of work and our contract tied in here at the end. There's our time and materials contract. We can literally have them sign this with DocuSign. We can email it. We can print it off. The whole 9 yards. Everything is here. Here's our pricing. Make sure everybody, yeah. But it's literally that fast. And what do we do? We did 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's
Three numbers in 3 minutes,
Yeah.
30 minutes. And so have all the tools in your toolbox. Make sure that you're utilizing everything that's out there. This tool keeps evolving. We're going to be integrating with some really special software, some guys that are out there that have some tracking software that is amazing, that this will hopefully integrate. You know how developing stuff is. This is a year old. This version is 2 months old. Gives me goosebumps because this is something that I've been working on since 1998 and just didn't know how to make it happen. And so all those files, all that information is baked in here. It works. Rob can tell you it works. And Ben, we got a few in here. Thank you all. You good, Ben?
Thank you, Tom. That was great.
And sorry about the Bloody Marys. I tried. They are down at my booth, so come by 413 and grab your Bloody Mary.
Thanks, guys.